Welcome to the Monday Scrum, and is there a bit to talk about in rugby league? From on-field action, not the off-field stuff that we go on about through the week, especially on Footy Talk with the Journos edition, but the stuff that happened on the weekend, which has an influence on the weekend coming because it's it's like a extra round of finals basically this weekend with some of the games that are coming up. Hello to James Graham. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, thanks, Adam. It's hard to keep up with the game at the moment. You know, we were all settled in nicely for a Brisbane Broncos Penrith Panthers grand final, and injuries galore. And
Yep.
yeah, wow, a week's a long time in football.
Yeah, a lot of entertainment. A lot of entertainment on the weekend, including from the Manly Warringah Seagulls. We've got to mention that up the top because Woodsy's here with a big smile on his face because it means Manly's won a game of footy.
That's it.
How are you, mate?
No, good, mate. Always good to come in off a win, Adam. So,
Game of touch footy that broke into at stages yesterday.
Oh, back ended it, wasn't it? 42-24 was, we got enough points on the board, but we leaked too many as well, especially late in the game, and they were quite soft for our standards, which was disappointing.
It was a typical, the end of the season is nigh.
It was more like, we've been encouraged to throw the ball around, but you've got to play tough and gritty with your defence first, which we didn't. Or we probably did for about 60 minutes and it fell away. But it was good to see a young Tolu Kola, the fullback, get an opportunity. He's a great young kid. I know the Wallabies were chasing him very hard. He's a Newington College boy.
Yep.
So he's got that background of rugby union, but really glad that he's stayed at Manly. He's just decided to stay with us for a couple more years, and it was good to see him get opportunity out the back.
Got a little theory on that. When we bring up that game again later in the show, because it was a beautiful moment. It was like United Nations, New York, the General Assembly, seeing two people from opposite sides of the fence who's had their problems come together and hug it out. Brent Reid, you were one of the people involved in that hug with Jake Trbojevic. But how are you, mate?
Mate, that photo, I look like about a 7-year-old kid. Honestly.
It's now our photo on our group chat.
How happy
I
were you?
think Jake made it pretty clear that that's a stitch up by you, Richie, that you've caused all the drama.
He's that nice. He didn't want to be bad to your face, mate.
I knew if I went up to Jake and asked him for an interview, I knew he wouldn't decline.
You know what the funny thing was?
If there was an issue, he's too nice a bloke.
So
Was that photograph pre or post haircut?
That was pre-haircut.
Is that fresh fade today?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
That is
1.5,
very quick.
Fading into
One
a
and a
2.
half.
Yeah, it went
good,
low,
man.
yeah.
I didn't know they went in halves.
Yeah, 1.5, yeah.
Oh.
But you'd be sent home from my school if you rocked up with a 1.5.
Really?
Yeah,
Too
two.
short.
Too short.
Yeah. It had to be 2 or
Not
You
many
get a
people
hand.
wear it as well as I do, though, Jimmy.
Standards.
Let's be honest.
Well,
standards, though. Obviously Triple M don't have the same standards as Days High School.
Well, we'll let anything go
Well,
here.
I'm telling
know
you
that.
right now, he's not got the haircut for us. It's 369, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
That's true.
So
So I'm getting ready for Mr. Wong's.
Yeah.
Woodsy's lunch to wear.
You might have no haircut by that time.
the way Woodsy's going, well, you'll have dreadlocks by the time we get down
Plenty
there.
of time next couple weeks. Just settle down.
Now, Reddy, you're not on the injury list from the weekend because it was just a gentle hug and a laugh with Jake Trbojevic, but there's an extended injury list out of the weekend's footy, and it has ramifications on some big teams with some big games to play in the next month or so. Run us through them.
Well, the most serious, obviously, Jerome Luai with the shoulder dislocation. Look, they're saying he might come back, or he'll come back maybe the preliminary final, but it's going to be he's got a mountain to climb to get back on the field. And what I find really interesting about Jerome Luai missing is if you look at that footy team and their win percentage with certain players in it, their best win percentage is with Jerome Luai. Even when Nathan Cleary plays, they win about 70% of their games. Yeah. When Jerome Luai plays, it's in excess of 80%. So that
got a theory on that, James?
Read what you want in the stats,
Look,
but he's a very, very important player.
Very influential.
Yeah,
very influential, and I think and he'll be a huge loss. I've said this before about the Penrith Panthers culture. He leads that. Whether you like the boom box or you don't, he leads that. He's the orchestra of the culture band there. Also, what he brings to that team. And I know they played without Nathan, and when you play without Nathan, you apply more pressure to Luai. But I think without Luai, tactically against him, you can go all in on Cleary and really look to negate him, which will be a huge disadvantage to the Panthers. Also, in terms of Luai playing again this season, I just can't see it happening. It's a dislocated shoulder. The high risk of this coming out again means he's going to be out for most of next season. He's off contract. Like, That's a dilemma to throw into it as well. This isn't about, getting Penrith a three-peat. It's about Jerome Luai's, health and future as well. He's got to weigh that up. And, knowing people that have had dislocated shoulders in the past is far too soon. If this happened in the regular season, we're talking at least 2 or 3 months out.
Well, we had a guy, Josh Alloway. He dislocated his shoulder. He come back. I think they gave him a term of 6 weeks to do his rehab. He got back in 3 or 4. But then I think we got a month of footy out of him, and then he went again. So it's just a ticking time bomb, as Jimmy said, and he's got a lot to at risk with.
It's just not worth
off
it.
Contract, like you said.
I reckon it'd be.
He'll go, excuse me. Even if he comes back and does it again, people will make a play for Jerome Luai. I don't think it necessarily hurts his value on the open market, Jimmy. I'm not as worried
you're
about
missing
that.
him for first
Well, no,
quarter of the year.
because he's contracted to Penrith anyway next year, so it's not until the year after where he
Yeah, but
actually
I don't want him
leaves
sitting
the
on the
footy club.
sideline for
Exactly.
80% of the season next season. That
But
potentially
we'll do the other.
last.
Should I do the other injuries first?
Yeah,
we'll
go
come
on.
back to that. Kalen Ponga. Now he's done the AC joint in his shoulder. They've ruled out collarbone damage. They're pretty confident he won't play this week. Obviously, they're pretty confident he'll be back for week 1 of the finals. Newcastle. Joey Manu's obviously got that low grade hammy. They're talking 50-50 for.
No, he's no chance.
Was that game Friday?
Friday
No,
night?
I can't
yeah,
remember.
8
Friday
o'clock
night.
game.
Be surprised if he plays. Jerome Luai medial strain. He won't play this
Jerome
week either.
Hughes.
Jerome Hughes, medial strain. Harry Grant's got a shoulder issue, and again, there's not a lot at risk for Melbourne, so I'd imagine they're going to rest some players. Any player who's
nothing
under
at
a
risk,
cloud.
Because they can't get a home final, because it's sort of sewn up for Brisbane and Penrith.
Yeah, and then Nico Hines obviously didn't play at the weekend, but apparently he ran over the weekend. And he should be right to play this week. So Jerome's the big one, Jerome Luai.
Bit happening. Far
Bit
out.
going on.
Yeah, bit
But
going
yeah,
on.
I'm not as worried about the contract situation, I reckon, for Jerome. I think regardless of what happens,
You don't think it'll play on his mind? He
Well,
doesn't
no.
have a manager. He's managing things himself. Like, does he need to be going into season 2023?
he doesn't strike me as the sort of guy who would play a lot in his mind, Jimmy. He doesn't strike me as that sort of guy. I think he's a pretty confident bloke, and I think as long as he's playing footy at some point next year, look, I mean,
Has he got a manager, or has he
No, he
been
doesn't.
talks
But
about a new one?
there's
Here's
talks
how
about
these-
anyone, yeah.
Here's how these conversations sort of go, like with the doctor, the surgeon, the medical experts. It's like, what's the chance of redislocation? What situations am I most likely to redislocate it in? And what then are the consequences if it dislocates? And they'll give you that time frame, which is expensive. It's an expensive time frame, and I don't know, even from a Penrith point of view, if you can enter the finals with Jerome having that lingering on his mind, would that affect how he plays? Like, is he going to put himself in those
Well, he becomes a
situations?
target, doesn't he? An obvious target.
It is the bullseye would be on him.
It also comes back what happened with the scan, because sometimes you can pop a shoulder straight back in, but there could be damages to the ligament and cartilage.
Yep.
If there's no damage to ligaments or the cartilage, you could be back quicker than you think.
He's a big loss for them.
Huge
regardless.
Well, are they?
Cogger's been good for them this
Yeah,
year.
but he hasn't got that X factor like
Yeah.
a Luai. He's
The running game.
unbelievable.
The running
and like
game.
Jimmy said, it's his presence. He brings people with him. He's the lead man with the boombox. Like, you look at the Sunya, the winger. Like, I reckon the amount of energy that he's going with that winger, like, he's just brought him out of his shell. He's one of their best players now.
Yeah, he's very good.
So Manly a few weeks ago chucked it around out of nowhere, did some what is regarded after the game as some stupid stuff, but it was unorthodox. And Parramatta didn't make it orthodox again for Penrith. Are we seeing a trend here, or are we jumping to conclusions because these are two sides that don't have anything to lose, really?
A little from column A, a little from column B. I think Manly attacked them with an attitude of we've got nothing to lose. I think Parramatta, they play that offload style of football anyway, but I think they were more shifty in their approach, especially sideline to sideline. And where Penrith were underdone on the weekend was their back five. So I think 3 of their regular back 5 were not in attendance or not playing in the 17. So that makes a big difference. Even, one of the competition in the world's best wingers, Brian Toto, made a bizarre decision to jam in on a shift play, and they were man on man. And I think that comes down to that probably a little bit of lack of trust, a little bit of communication there for the person on his inside, but that will be fixed once they get their full back five. And Stephen Crichton, great at fullback, but he doesn't have Stephen Crichton in there at the centres. So it all has that domino effect when you have so many of your back five out of sync, and that's where Parramatta caught them out.
I believe it's a way to beat them. We did it the other week because our biggest threat's our speed out wide. Penrith are a side, they're a great grind team going set for set. You got real fit. They haven't got the biggest front rows, but they've got fit, fast leg speed. You move them around, they get gassed quite easy. They don't tend to like they love the structure. What we try to do to them, we tried to, every time last play, kick, find touch. You get them in a set start. To'o's a lot easier to tackle. Sunia Taruva is a lot easier to tackle from a set start. When you're going in that free motion, that grind, they're a lot harder because they're real nippy. They love that. They're, like I said to you before, they're fit, young. You want to chance your arm a little bit. We probably chance it too much. They're a side that they like to suffocate you in the middle of the ruck. What Parramatta did well was a lot of offloads. Sometimes they probably offload a little bit too much at times. You've got to have that, the right balance, which, we didn't have at Manly. Sometimes from that kick early play, we put ourselves under pressure. Whereas, a couple of times on the weekend, I thought Parramatta probably offloaded just that, probably a little bit too much. And, it killed the next play. And then that's when they got ganged a little bit. But they're a side, I think, if you go set for set, they'll eat you up and they'll chew you up and spit you out. But you need to chance your arm against them because they've got the likes, like I said, and then their back rolls. Sorensen, he was out on the weekend as well. But they're going to get back Edwards this week. Crichton's going to go back to centre. And like Jimmy said, it was very uncharacteristic of To'o to come in, not trust his centre.
Yep.
They'll be back on the same page. So you need everything to go your way. And when that happens, you need to make them pay when you get your opportunities.
It's got to be a style of football that suits your team as well. I think the classic example would be to see them come up against the Brisbane Broncos in this final series. So Brisbane do like to give the ball some air. They pass the ball because passing the ball isn't risky. I believe you just got to be comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
The offload that can come with an element of risk, and we've mentioned two teams here in Manly's approach and Parramatta's approach, and Woodsy used that word pressure. So they had no pressure on them.
Yeah.
The consequences for losing is
you're going to lose anyway.
It doesn't really matter because you're not expected to win. So you may as well do something different. That said, when it comes to finals time, the pressure intensifies. The consequences for losing means the season's over. There's no next week. So it's that fine balance. Okay, if you want to, you go out swinging, i.e. passing the ball around and getting some offloads, or do you stick with what you've done all season to get you in a position to play playoffs? So it's an interesting dilemma for a number of teams that will face the Penrith Panthers in the final series. The Warriors looks likely as if they'll play them week one of the finals. Then that's a really interesting matchup, especially no Luai. The Warriors, they'll smell blood in the water and they'll be coming for Penrith.
Can I ask this question?
You can do what you want,
So
really.
Penrith have lost, obviously, the weekend. They've got the potential to rest players. If Brisbane win on Thursday night, they're second regardless, right?
Yeah.
So they can then turn around and potentially rest players. Nothing at stake
You'd
in
have
that
to
game.
name the
Yeah,
ninth.
you've got to name the 19.
22.
24.
No,
22.
but by the time Brisbane play, they'll have to be down to 19.
What time did Penrith play?
What time's
Saturday?
Penrith playing?
They're only
5:30.
5:30,
No, they
have to.
don't. No,
Oh, no,
Brisbane
sorry,
game's
Thursday, sorry. I thought
No,
it
they
was
don't.
Friday,
They don't.
yeah.
They've got the 22 to choose from, right?
Yep.
So if they rest players, they're taking a risk that maybe they're under strength again. If they do that and they go into the finals and they lose again and go into the finals on back-to-back losses, is that an issue?
Not at all.
No?
I don't think that's an issue at all because those blokes, they have been out of the team. They'll be back. They'll be firing. They've had a couple of weeks off. They'll get their bodies. The bumps
Losing's
and
a habit,
bruises.
Woodsy.
Not for this team.
Not for this team. Winning's a habit for these blokes.
Yeah.
Well, we said that last year. Remember they rested all those blokes in the last
They got
round
towed
last
up.
year, and everyone was like, oh,
Against
they've
the
rested them,
Cowboys.
and then they played the first week of the finals. They had another week. Oh, they're going to be soft for the grand final. They haven't had a lot of footy in the last 6 weeks, and look what they did.
Fresh is
Yeah.
best.
Fresh is
Finals.
best this
We
time.
Fresh
caught
is
it together,
best.
Jimmy. That was one of the most clinical performances you've ever seen in the grand final. I've never seen a side just get manhandled the way Penrith did.
They came out with so much
Parity.
energy.
That was
They came out
unbelievable.
with so much
They
energy.
wouldn't have
and
to
they-
rest a lot of blokes this week, mind you, because they've stagnated a rotate. Well, they've rotated players over the past month, so there wouldn't be a lot of guys you'd look to rest this week. But I'm just saying, if they happen to rest a few and they
Only if
lose
you've
to
got
a
a bump.
Cowboys
Only if
side
you've
that
got a bump.
needs to win, and you go into the finals on back-to-back defeats, potentially, they were
I tell you
They
who
were
wouldn't.
belted by
I tell
Barrow.
you who wouldn't want them rested would be the Roosters.
Oh, I know.
So this
Or South.
final weekend is fascinating. The way it's set up, and it's perfectly set up because you've got a meaningful game every day as well. You've got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You've got some dross in there as well. No offense, Woodsy, but
Wow. Drossworthy.
well, it has been. You're meant to be playing finals, and you're not playing finals anyway. It's not your fault.
Dross.
Thursday night, Brisbane Broncos. He's not even looking at me. Thursday night,
You still calling soccer? Or
Brisbane Broncos, Melbourne Storm. So Broncos approach here. Young side, excited, massive crowd. Haven't beaten Melbourne 13 times in a row. Their last win, August 26. Some of the Broncos have still been in high school. August 26, 2016
Wow.
was
Their
their
la-
last win over the Melbourne Storm. And then you got Friday, Bunnies Roosters, who are going to try and rip each other's heads off anyway,
How good is that? For
given what's happened to
Oh.
South.
Well, that game, people are calling it the finals comes early.
Mhm.
There's a possible and winner takes it all. There's a possibility they both miss
Yeah,
Cowboys win.
it's going to be fun watching.
and the
though.
Raiders lose.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun watching though.
It can happen, really.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
It
Just
can
trying to
happen.
Work it out in my head.
So
You're
if
right, it can.
Roosters win,
If Roosters win and Cowboys win.
Cowboys win,
Yeah.
and
if-
Raiders win,
Yes.
both teams
Yes.
on Friday nights, blockbuster, adding to the bucket
No,
feuds.
if Roosters win and Cowboys, all they got to do is win. Doesn't matter about Canberra.
Who are you talking about? The Cowboys or Roosters?
So Roosters are
talking about?
10th on 30,
Yeah, but they got to pour for
minus
and against.
38. Cowboys 9th, 30, plus 36. Bunnies 30, plus 73. Canberra 32, minus
But that's what I'm
119.
saying. If the Roosters
No,
win,
Jimmy's saying if Canberra and the Cowboys win, the Roosters can still miss out if
Yes.
they win.
Yeah.
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 Yep.
That's what he was saying.
It's 100% what he was saying.
I've had my ladder
You're right,
predictor out
is it?
all morning doing
Wait,
it.
wait, go again, go again,
He's
go again, go
He's
again,
confused.
go again, go again.
It's
the
that
Roos-
simple.
If the Cowboys win
Yep, beat Penrith.
and Canberra win,
Yep.
it doesn't matter what the Roosters do. They can't
Yeah,
make it.
yeah, 100%.
So
yeah.
both South Sydney and the Sydney Roosters don't make the 8 in that scenario.
Only if the Roosters win, yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
mate, don't worry, I've had my ladder predictor out doing.
Roosters got to win, yeah. That's what Jimmy was saying.
Yeah, 100%.
But even if the Roosters win,
they knock them out.
that's what we've just said.
That's what we
That's what I'm
said.
saying.
So on Friday
That's
night,
what he was saying.
on Friday night, if the Roosters win,
Yeah,
they are not guaranteed to
100%.
play.
Yeah,
Yes.
Because
Why'd
then
you say
if I-
Canberra?
because for that to happen,
Because they've got the
Because
shit as
Canberra
fought
needs to
against.
if the Sharks beat Canberra and the Cowboys win, then lo and behold, the Roosters make the 8
Because they can jump
Yeah, but
because they can jump Canberra.
Canberra because they got a better point against
True.
than Canberra.
Yeah,
The
So
advantage
that's-
Canberra
so-
have.
So
it's a tight
just
one,
to be
isn't it?
It's very
no,
tight.
it's not tight. It's clear as day. It's not tight. It's wide open.
No, the comp's tight.
The comp's tight.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I'm saying.
The
Yeah.
situations
Yes.
are clear.
Yes. It's massive,
We'll
man.
say that Canberra
Can you
do.
imagine the punters at home listening to this? They're going, "Hang on a minute,
Hang on.
what's going
hang
on?"
Time out.
Unbelievable.
Time out. It was
Anyway, that's a big
weekend.
game Thursday night.
Thursday night, all the way to the last game.
Yeah.
Mate, they're
On the
all
Sunday
big ready.
Arvo.
Thursday Broncos,
Canberra.
you're right about
Yeah.
the Storm have got an amazing record against Brisbane, but I suspect they'll rest some players, the Storm.
So
Well,
how
they will. They'll
The
be without
Broncos
Jerome.
won't as well because
way.
they've,
Because
they've
they
had
can win
two
them one.
they've
Yeah.
had 2 buys in the
Yeah.
past 10 weeks, so they're
Yeah.
fresh. They're ready to go. They'll want a performance. They'll just be looking to get injury free. I don't think they'll play Reynolds. I don't think they'll play Carrigan. I don't think they'll play Walsh.
You reckon Walsh won't play?
Well, he was pulled up tight. Like he
I
looked
just don't see the point.
Chance to win a minor premiership.
Imagine,
They'll-
That does bring
they'll-
some benefits with it.
and then what was the
Money
record
and
again?
the sort of other
2000
things.
and
2016?
I still think they'll have enough.
13 games in a row.
Okay.
imagine a record
Not
too.
one win.
They can knock that record over as well.
Well, they'll probably. There's a good
Yeah,
chance they'll
good
play
chance
them
they'll-
the week after too, isn't it?
Exactly.
They will. It's guaranteed.
At-
If
at
Brisbane
Suncorp
if
too.
Brisbane
Brisbane
win,
Yeah, they'll play each other again. So there's a bit of a psychological advantage in that too, isn't it?
With
Massively.
with Bunnies Roosters. So we've got Bunnies with all that drama last week, all that malarkey gone on at their club. I mean, there's still remnants of that with Latrell, like Clive Churchill's son, saying what he said, and now we read on the weekend that if the Bunnies make a grand final and one of their players wins the Clive Churchill medal, there's going to be ramifications there. And it's
I think he
like,
came out today and apologised for what he said, didn't he?
Who's that?
He did, yeah.
He came out
Oh, he
today
came out
and
Came out
so-
and
apologised.
apologised today, yeah.
withdrew-
Rod
but
Churchill, yeah.
I didn't find that totally disrespectful. What he said. Hasn't he got a right to kind of say what he wants to say?
Mate, when you start
If he
calling,
loves the
when you
club?
start calling people a
cancer.
cancer,
Yeah, that's a bit.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
horrific.
That's not-
I
that's
take
not-
back
I
that.
that's
told
not
my
good.
wife that, and she was
Yeah, no,
mortified.
Yeah,
that's pretty wrong.
because
That's
cancers are
across
pretty.
the line.
Yeah, fair
That's
enough.
across
you
the
know,
line.
Yeah,
Okay,
that,
so-
that's that, and that was in a private text message. We've got to stress that it was
Yeah.
a private text message, but it found its way into the public domain. And the mere fact that he's sending that to the chairman of the football club, Nick Pappas, I mean, you just can't say that about people.
So
it's just disgusting.
And furthermore, he's not.
Clive
He's
Churchill.
not. No,
No, he's not a cancer.
he's not.
No.
Cancer.
Oh, sorry.
He actually brings a hell of a lot to that organisation.
Yeah.
And we can pick apart his game and say,
Yeah.
this isn't going well for him. He needs to improve in this. But it's the complete opposite. He's actually got the ability to be the catalyst for change, and we can
We
can
save
talk.
lives.
He can save lives.
Latrell
So
Mitchell.
he can save this team
Yeah.
if they get it right. And it's all about now. If you're Jason Demetriou, if you're the lead, if you're the four leaders of that team, which I view as Latrell Mitchell, Cody Walker, Damien Cook, and Cameron Murray, if you're those four guys now, what's done is done. What we need to do, a response. Now, if we don't see a response,
Mm-hmm.
this is where the concern gets in. This is where the review of the season will be in forensic detail, because I think that would be the sign of a poor organisation with some issues. If we don't see a response after a bye, after all this talk, what you need to see, what we must see, is a response on Friday night, and those players need to be able to go, I'm going to put this away, and I'm going to fight for this club, and I'm going to fight for our position in the 8.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary set of circumstances where the Bunnies have got themselves after the way that they started, and that's been well documented in the past week or so. But for it to get to this, and this, you get the feeling that Jason Demetriou has been calling for he's trying to rattle his team up in the public domain all year. I've heard 3 or 4 press conferences where he's had to go directly at their effort levels and their concentration, and all those little things that a coach wants from his players. But for now to go burst into the public domain like it has, and for them to have the response now, even after that, maybe Jason Demetriou's gone, well, I know, great, we've got the response, but did it have to be that way? Like,
It's probably sad how it's got out to the public.
very much so.
But as Jimmy said, mate, the players are all on notice now, and it's not just Latrell. I think, Keon Kolomatangi's been a little bit quiet since Origin. I thought his form leading into that was outstanding. That's the reason why he got the jersey. They've really missed Tommy Burgess, and I know Junior Totola was back last week, but it was only his first game back. I think they've really missed the big man up front.
Yeah.
Jai Arrows had to show, put more of a role on him, but he's been busted in his back.
Well, speaking of Jai Arrow, there's some news from Danny Wilder as well on Twitter. And Jai, am I
What's happened?
wrong in thinking that Jai Arrow's had a few problems in this regard
With his dogs.
with his dogs?
Yeah.
Oh, he's in trouble again, is
If
it?
things weren't bad enough for Jason Demetriou, Danny Wilder supports, his cavoodle was attacked by Jai Arrow's dog at training on Sunday. The Bunnies were observing a bring your dog to work day, maybe to calm things down.
It was International Dog Day on Saturday.
Was too at the
We're all
weekend.
told that dog is okay. Like,
Didn't one of
far out. The poor guy can't take a trick.
I think one of his
South
dogs,
Side
he got in trouble
Yeah,
when
he got
Liam
in trouble
Knight
with one of
was
his dogs.
walking his dogs.
Yeah. So,
Jesus.
That's
Seriously.
that is.
So his dog
that's
got
an-
the coach's dog.
yes.
That'll be the next rumour.
Jai might be on the interchange bench this week.
Jai's 19th. He's locked
Geez,
in, surely.
There,
No,
there
they
are
need him.
there are no secrets in rugby league, but I think
Surprised
Woodsy
Danny
spoke.
didn't hold that for the 6 p.m. news tonight. Anyway, sorry.
Bong, coach's dog attacked.
Breaking.
What? To Woodsy's point, this is all out in the open. I think that's for the betterment of South Sydney. Sometimes a situation will happen at a football club, and you'd look to keep it in house. Hide
fester, right?
hide
I
it,
took the word out of
Yeah,
my mouth.
Festa.
Like Festa.
Yeah.
hide it a little bit,
Yeah.
keep it behind closed doors, which can be an advantage. But I think in this circumstance, the fact that the dirty laundry has been aired and out in the public, that drills back to my point about needing to see a response.
You know the funny thing, before the weekend we just had, I would have said Roosters were massive favourites.
Mhm.
Now they've lost Hargraves and Manu. I reckon it shifts south.
So, on Jared,
Yes.
I was watching that on Saturday night, and I've gone, that is one of the most pointless things I've said. And I'm not going to have a go at the
Are you talking
guys.
about
ability. Jared, yeah.
Are you
Just,
talking about the
just how
which
fired
one?
up
the
he got.
swinging arm or the headbutt?
Both.
Because he's fighting the hit on Uppy.
Yeah.
So
He's
Reedy,
copped the headbutt.
so you
no,
got-
he's not.
Yes.
You are
He's
joking.
trying to get a downgrade.
He-
Yes. But he's copped the headbutt. He's copped the striking charge.
Which one are you surprised about? Copping the
So that's
headbutt?
three
or-
games.
the headbutt. Mate, there's no defending him for the
I'd do the other way around.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
go the other way around. You are joking, Reedy.
Let me make sure I got it the right way around. He's fighting one. He's trying to get a downgrade on one of them.
I get
Let
the
me
fighting the
just- let me
headbutt
just
because
check that.
there is no way
I'm
those
pretty
two
sure he copped the
incidences are
striking.
the same. Like you can't tell me those incidences of foul play are the same.
Oh,
like-
the phone just went dead.
The point is,
For me, it was stupidity. Like you
that's-
cannot touch a kicker late, and especially when he's kicked it, you just can't touch him. It's a
And he
penalty.
does it wrong as well.
And
Would
it was
he?
high.
Like, well, you never do kick pressure, but when you're one of those type of players, that
No,
put
he
on
has.
kick
He's
pressure,
copped the headbutt and he's fighting the dangerous contact charge on
I
Uppy.
think he's got
that's
that
insanity.
wrong way around. Yeah.
So
Insanity.
I'm explaining the rules of kick pressure. Woodsy wouldn't know because he just has this last play off. You go from the inside out,
Wow.
not the outside in.
I've played against Jimmy a long time. Jimmy's already walking back for play one.
So the rule is
Are you the bloke who should be talking to people about the last play options of kick pressure?
Do you remember
Given
Good
your
Friday?
history?
Good Friday.
Good Friday?
yes, because you learn.
That's because he knows.
I came for.
So he's
I
never done a
ex-
kick pressure since.
I executed it wrong. I did the right thing. That came from the inside out, not the outside in. And Jared's done the outside in. So it's the wrong angle to come from.
Technically, yes.
The wrong angle to come from in terms of kick
We
pressure.
also had a swinging arm along with it.
Like,
It was a bit. He was
what-
hanging arm out.
Fight the headbutt.
No, he's copped the headbutt.
I don't get
How could
that.
you fight the headbutt? I mean, he headbutted him.
clear as day.
All right,
It
I'll tell you
wasn't the
what,
world's.
if-
It wasn't
if
the world's
Ja- if
worst. It wasn't a
if
traditional
Jared Weir
old school
Hargreaves
headbutt.
had
But it was a
bruised
little
great.
headbutt.
The headbutt
if
wouldn't
he
bruise it
headbutt
great.
somebody, you'd fracture your skull.
Yes.
Like there's a coming together where you rub heads. That's completely
wasn't a
different.
It's just two big men together.
It was a half pie headbutt.
Oh, that,
He leaned
A
into
headbutt's
him.
like
A grade
this,
two.
whack.
A grade two is a bit harsh. I agree with that.
Okay.
He
Look,
could have probably
Do you know
fought
what
them
my
both.
thing is, but he's done it so many times. He's been fined
This
so
is
many
what I'm
times.
saying.
So
Why?
it's going to
well,
catch
why
up with
even
you.
why even put the game's gone?
Yeah, that
The,
was
the
the silly
focus should
part
have
of
been
it.
on next week.
On
I would've
every
pulled him
level.
off before, like 20 minutes ago.
You'd have done
Every-
what?
Sorry.
I've had a James Graham moment.
That might have relaxed him. I'm on every level.
With
On
me doing it,
every
could've
level,
got
I was
fired
sitting
up.
there going, I don't, and I've
don't
said this
get
to
it.
you before, James. Like, I know that you go across that white line and the fever hits and you can't control yourself sometimes. But, and I'm sitting there with 3 beers down in the lounge, skinny bloke looking at his rugby league going, what do you do that
Yeah.
for? But seriously, I could not find a rational answer
Well-
to understand what the bloody hell was going through his head.
Well, I guess in terms of personality type characteristics, at least with Jared, what you see is what you get, and that and you have to live with that. And I'm sure Robinson and Nick Politis that they all know that, and they would have had a multitude of discussions with Jared about this, and perhaps you just have to accept that he's going to get himself suspended completely in unnecessary situations.
and hurt his team.
That's his
Yeah.
modus operandi. It has been for.
What's his
I've
word?
covered his whole career, and I can't. That's the way he's played his whole career. He's
Yeah.
played on the line, and he's crossed it a lot.
And he has no, like, perhaps for
modus
him, there's
operandi.
there's no ability to taper back.
Yeah.
It's like
You
the
know,
troll.
just-
Can't filter it.
Exactly the same as the troll.
The interesting thing now with Jared, if he cops this, well, it will be a potential 7-game suspension.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
so a 7-game
7-game.
suspension.
Can you
so
serve them concurrently? It's like a jail sentence.
No.
no,
You can't.
Probably not.
They're,
No,
they're
no.
on
They're
top
one
of
on
each
top
other.
of
so
each other.
will
7 games.
does the international games at the end of the
They can
season
apply
count?
for them to count, yes. And I would imagine in his case, given he's a Kiwi rep, they would count. So you
Yeah.
get potentially 3, if they make a final, 3 games for that, and he missed Vegas.
I can't believe it.
'Cause you
he's
can't
mi-
count
he'll-
pre-season games
so
anymore
He'll
from
miss
memory.
semi-finals, he'll miss Kiwis, and he'll miss Vegas.
Yes.
That's a big blow.
But if he is successful in downgrading, he goes back to only 3-game suspension, which means he would miss
3 games.
this game coming up. If they miss the finals, he'd miss 2 tests. He'd be back for Vegas.
Or-
Start of next season.
If they get on a run, prelim final, he'd
If
be
they
back
get in
for.
a run, he might be back for the GF. Prelim. Sorry, yeah, prelim. You're right.
Just crazy though. 10 minutes to go against the West Tigers in a game you've iced.
It was thoughtless and
Wasn't it like
needless.
it was
but it is,
28?
But it's illogical.
10,
But
Yes.
we're emotional creatures, aren't we? And we
he's
act
as
on
emotional
instinct.
as anyone,
And
Jimmy,
he's
isn't he?
thinking he's doing the right
Yeah.
thing. And that's what he's done his whole life. He's been rewarded for that. And
I would have been getting into the lazy bloke on the inside. Didn't put the pressure on.
yeah, blame him. Yeah, we need to look back and say, that's the review. Robinson goes,
You're going to blame them.
Yep.
Why,
Yeah.
why are we having to rely on Jared to put kick pressure on you? That's your job. And you
6
just
weeks
go,
for it now.
Rudy, was there any point with your meeting with Jake Trbojevic yesterday that you thought that the same thing could happen to Appy that happened?
No, it's not Jakey's style. I knew he'd be okay. He's a good fella.
No, you know
Jake.
what's funny?
Woodsy's made too much.
So I was-
Woodsy's
I was-
so
beaten
you've
up.
seen it.
I was there just talking. I was talking to Kyle Flanagan.
Yep.
And then
Oh, he's
I
a
see
good fella,
I see
Kyle.
Reedy walk over and goes, "Oh, Woodsy, I'm going to grab Jakey now," as if he's going to say no to you on the field. So Jakey, as a great person he is, he's done the talk and
Yeah.
he faked it all to Reedy.
Yeah, he did, yeah. Anyway,
He was filthy. Jakey was filthy. They filmed it.
Was he?
Yeah, he wasn't happy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I'll tell you one thing I wouldn't be happy with if I'm a Bulldog supporter because they are the worst team in the comp. I know they're not going to end with the spoon. And I know you're looking at a thing, the ladder doesn't lie, James, but seriously,
Well, the worst team's the Tigers then because they finished 17th.
yeah, they finished with the spoon.
The Dogs aren't the worst team in the comp.
They
They've
are
had
on their
some
last.
really poor performances, but I don't think it's fair to say that they're the worst team in the comp.
So I looked at
Because the worst team in the comp doesn't go down to Melbourne Storm and come back with a win.
14 times they've
That was-
conceded
that
more
was
than
still
30
in daylight
points this
savings, though.
this year, Jimmy.
Yeah, no, I'm fully aware of that.
No,
but
I
I
you know
think
what?
we're that statement is reactive to what we've seen currently.
for the last 8 weeks. That's what I'm basing
they've
it on.
they've been exceptionally poor, and there's
Since
some
June,
not up
they've
to
been-
first grade actions.
So
I'll
here's
tell you, playing against them yesterday, they've got moments where they're really, really good, and then they've got other moments where they're really, really poor. Like, and it comes from their big players. Like there was a period there, we had a good little grind, and then they got a penalty 5 minutes out from their own line, and then all Matt Burton has to do is fine touch,
Yeah.
and he tries to go
And
for
miss
too many
touch.
meters, and the ball doesn't even find touch.
is
And
that in the second half?
second half,
was.
that just really lets your middle
Yeah.
forwards down, and that's when you get frustrated. And then from that, we end up scoring 2 or 3 tries in a row.
With the Dogs, though, I looked at it yesterday and I saw that result, and I looked back through their results so far, and they've been absolutely blitzed a number of times since June. So I went, okay, so Cameron Serrato's come in and he's trying to build something here, and I get it. It's a 5-year deal, and they're a lot of turnover of players coming in this first year of his 5 years. You look back to Penrith when Ivan Cleary got to Penrith the first time round when standards were set, and obviously he went away. So that was 2012. And obviously the Bulldogs would love to end up like Penrith has now. So it's a 10-year project.
You got to
to-
remember, Penrith, they're probably the best team in this NRL era.
Yeah, so that was a 10-year project
Yeah.
to turn that joint around the direction that they wanted to. Overall, no, probably 8 or 9 by the time they got up to standard. But they never got, in those first 2 years of Cleary, 12 and 13, they never got consistently thrashed. There was the odd one or two. I'm just wondering, James, how they get that mentality out of the club when you're being consistently thrashed.
Yeah,
Not
it-
just,
It's very difficult, and perhaps the job at the Bulldogs is bigger than what it was at the Panthers. There's no cookie cutter approach, but speaking to people behind the scenes there, I think there is an easier option and a shortcut, but the people at the club are determined for the club never to have to go through this again, which means setting up systems in place for the long-term sustainable future of the Bulldogs, so they can be consistently competing in every game. Not necessarily competing for finals, but consistently have a squad and a roster that can be successful.
which is
and
bloody
have a
hard
sit.
to do
It
in
is
professional sport, that long-term
it
thought.
is. But if you look at what Penrith are doing now, yes, they're seeing the fruits of that with back-to-back championships and perhaps a third. But I don't know if we'll see a Penrith Panthers team in the next 2 decades that will be, suffering big defeats. I might come back to eat those words, but I think that's what the Bulldogs are trying to do. So I think there is a shortcut there, which may have them higher on the ladder and higher performing this year and next. But then we would see that taper off
when those players go.
when those players go. So
I just think the turnover of players they have as well.
Yep.
I think it was 60-something the other day. Was it, Reedy? How many?
It's not finished yet.
It's still not finished.
No.
and
But
that's
you
why.
You've also got players that don't want to be there. Like Tavita Pengai Jr. said that he wants to quit at the end of the year.
And that's why they signed Cameron Serrao, a rookie coach, on a 5-year deal,
Yeah.
not a 3-year deal. So that if you read between the lines, that says
Yeah.
that.
It's a much bigger job than even he thought it
But
was.
what
I
happens
think
if,
it
what,
is.
You know,
what happens
yeah, I
if
think it
next year they have another stinker, then the year after they don't start well? 3
Well,
years
then he'll
into
be
the
under,
rebuild.
then
yeah.
he will be under pressure. I mean, he will be under pressure, even though he's got a 5-year deal.
Yeah.
If they can't turn it round, if they win this weekend, they'll have won 8 games this year. Last year they won 7. You can argue whether they've gone backwards or forwards. I mean, I personally watching them on the weekend and in recent weeks, you'd say they've gone backwards this year, but they've won more games. So they've actually, if they win this weekend, they've won more games. So they've actually improved where it matters
So
on
there's
the
7
scoreboard.
wins this year.
And obviously,
Unbelievable.
we are a results-based industry.
Yes.
We look at that. I think from a whole of football operation and club standpoint, I think anybody that gets to witness that would see that the club has moved forward in a multitude of areas, but the product that everybody wants to care about is the results in the NRL competition, which and the level of performance, which again, look, that you can make a point to say that there has not been a progression, but I think as a whole of club organisation, we have seen the progression.
They get Crichton and Takiaho next year, I think, and Bronson Cherry. I don't think they're a final side next year. I think they're still another 12 months away.
And the thing is,
Now, they need to be aggressive in the market next year. I'm still not convinced Matt Burns 6.
Well,
I'm not
he's
sure they've
centre.
got. I'm not sure they've got a halfback. I think they're another good off season, a good player market sugar hit from the player market away from being a finals team.
I just look at the Dogs through the middle and their effort areas in the little things that get it done. Like you look at Melbourne Storm and their absolute best and the grind and just the ringer that they used to put the opposition teams through each and every time when like they were trying to get a roll on in 6. There's no starch in the middle. Just in the middle, it just looks soft and open. I'm going off yesterday, mate.
yeah, that's yesterday. But a lot of sides have had that. A couple of times this year, Craig Bellamy has questioned the effort from Melbourne Storm.
Yeah.
The rules are a lot different than what they were when Melbourne Storm were going for that period. Unbelievable. 6 agains have really brought teams
Cameron's
back
not
to,
reffing games as well.
Yeah, you haven't got Cameron Cooper, Billy. There's a lot of different things. I think the Bulldogs have been hurt by a lot of injuries. Like Luke Thompson's, I think only played 2 or 3 games. He's an outstanding front rower. I love watching him play. Kickout, their main signing at the Peck, been out for a
Injured.
long period of
Yeah,
time, and
never
they're
got up to
big
speed.
presences, around the ruck.
WTF moment of the week. Here we go.
The WTF moment.
Can I go first? I really enjoyed Saturday night, Canberra-Brisbane. It was just a fun game of footy to watch as a neutral. It wouldn't have been much fun if you're a Canberra, certainly not Ricky Stewart, as we saw when the Fox camera pointed at him in the second half, and I can understand why he said what he said because I was taking a cutaway every 5 seconds. But on full time, and Reece Walsh, just, he was standing in no man's land, and Joey Tarpanay just used himself as a human torpedo, basically. Fair game, James?
Yeah,
I don't think that's a WTF moment.
I reckon-
But still play on.
it is.
No, my WTF moment is the fact that Reece Walsh thought he was, standing in the middle of a shopping centre
I loved it.
when he was on a football field.
We were
What was he doing?
We were commentating a game. He just seen the missile come out of nowhere and just absolutely flattened him. So, you know what? Fair game for Tarpany.
It was a Meet Joe Black moment, I call it, when he got whacked by the cabs in middle of 43rd Street or whatever it was. But, I don't think Reece will be doing that anytime soon. But fair play to Reece Walsh as well. It all kicked off
got up.
of it. He got up, and he was the first one to shake Joey's hand. He just go,
Yeah.
fair enough.
That's all about.
I
You
got
play the
done.
whistle. It happened when I was at the Dragons, I think, last year. Joey Manu faked the cramp in his calf.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And one of our teammates sort of was like, stop. Then, boom, he went straight through. So, Tarpany must have been watching video on that.
Yep. Good play. Not so good from Reece. I don't think he's got a long career ahead of him. He's going to be doing that every 5 minutes.
No way.
Brent?
Well, I'm going to go with Pap's comeback on the weekend.
Yeah.
Yep.
I went down and met him last week and sat down with him for a while down in Melbourne.
You tweeted before the game now to watch my man Paps.
Ah.
You're meant to be unbiased reportage.
And it was a
of
great,
the game.
he's a great story. More than a year
Absolutely.
out of the NRL and to come back, the game was in the balance when he came on. He didn't change it per se, but when he came on, the game changed, and just a great story. Bloke who's been out that long to come back, get through the game, and he's a great bloke, really nice fella, and really happy for him.
Really, just looking at your haircut, I reckon you should have gone with the pants.
Would have been good, eh?
Like-
I don't think I can grow a mullet at my age, can I?
Yeah, of
you
course.
can if you
Just
want.
Get the short.
I'll
Just
be
shave
lucky
your
if this grows
sideburns.
back, Jimmy.
Just
Come
go
on.
that long bit down here, mate.
I'm not sure my wife would go for the mullet. Although maybe she could close her eyes and imagine
Well,
she's
you know
just
what you
Paps.
say.
That might work for me. That might help. might even let her,
Edit point.
might even let her call me Paps.
Oh,
I like it when you call me Big Papa.
Big Pappy.
Good stuff. Good on you, Paps.
Put the train back on the tracks, will you?
Well,
Woodsy?
we've already spoken about my one.
What's your one?
Was you and Jake trying to reach after the game? How fake it was.
Another
What's the start of that? Can you clear it up?
There's quite a few. Where do you want to start?
So I probably started on the Kangaroo Tour when the Desi stuff was happening,
Okay.
and we were badgering Jakey to get an interview with him. He didn't want to do it.
Fair
Eventually he did. Asked him a couple of questions. He got the pips.
A couple of bad headlines from you as well. And
Some
that's all. A
headlines a bit rough. Not I don't write the headlines, Woodsy.
couple of times you outspoken on the beers.
Well,
Yeah.
that's not true. Or maybe it was. And then there was an incident, Brookie, where the players were there for. We thought they were doing interviews. They weren't. I went up to Jakey and said, "Oh, mate, come on, let's have a chat." He said no. I asked him again. Asked him a third time. He went off and basically had a shot at me. And then James Hooper wrote about it. I think he thought I'd told Hoops about it.
Oops.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's all good now.
Your
So,
one, Joe?
What do you got, Jimmy?
Yeah, my WTF moment this week. I only found out about it last week, but it comes from the weekend before, and we think we've got it tough with our match officials. So in the League Two, I think it was League Two, Portsmouth were playing Cheltenham Town back in England. Two
This is soccer
match
for everyone.
officials
Football, soccer.
go down.
Yeah.
So the fourth official has gone down. So there's only two. You need the referee and two
Two linos.
linos. I was going to say linesmen, maybe lineswomen.
Assistants.
Assistant referees. They put out a call on the PA. Is there a qualified match official in the crowd? This is like the stuff of. It's normally like, you know, when you're a kid and you go to the game and you're like, imagine if right the star player goes down. It's like, oh, they're gonna need someone. It'd be like, I'll do it.
What league was
someone out of the crowd.
This is like the third tier. So it's like a pretty good standard.
Would have
like
been 20,000 people at the game.
Portsmouth used to be in
Pompey
the,
have been in the Premier League. Like they've been playing Pompey
yeah.
and all that. They put out an announcement. Like, is there a registered match official, like qualified match official? And this geezer's just like, yeah, go on then. Like, as if he's not biased. Like, he's at the game. He's supporting. He's put his hand up. Go on then. So he ends up running the line for in like a proper game. Like, it's insane that they do it. Like, we've got the bunker, but can you imagine that happening here in the NRL? Like, a couple of the matchup, Adam G goes down. It's like, excuse me, is anyone? Yeah, go on then. I've done my course. I'll do it.
over 45s call.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
How good's that? When sport we need each other.
Fantastic.
That's the best.
Fantastic. Now, on the rundown, I've jumped ahead. We talked about Latrell earlier on, so we're going to jump to our last item right now.
Reedy's Mail.
We should start with Ricky's comments, don't you think? They were interesting on the weekend.
Yes.
Ricky obviously under the gun after staring down at a camera who's being filmed and he mouthed something, allegations that might have been in a swear word. Now, interestingly, Fox have reached out to the NRL, Andrew Abdo and Graham Annesley today, and Ricky, and taken blame for what happened. Said we shouldn't have been focused on Ricky.
Did you notice that they didn't take another cutaway? So that would have come from the not a higher up, but maybe an executive producer to say, yeah, maybe we'll take, because they took about 5 cutaways in the previous 8 minutes of Ricky, because he is good theatre.
Yeah, it's great theatre.
And he just got jack of it, which I completely
I
understand.
think they're waiting for him to kick the chair, not do what he did.
I think they've
throw a
got an
water bottle or
agreement in
something.
place where they will film Ricky, but they'll film him from a distance and they'll be selective.
Yeah.
Because Ricky's got a good relationship with people there, and we all love Ricky's.
Steve Crawley's brother, I think, is on the coaching staff.
He's on the coaching staff. He is,
So, yeah. And
So,
Steve Crawley's the
yeah.
head of television at Fox Sports.
Yeah.
Why has anyone got a problem with what he's saying or what he's doing?
It's not what he's. It's the fact he stared at a camera. Was staring at a camera when he said it.
I love it.
That's the issue.
That's all part of it. That's the passion. That's it's real life.
Yeah.
And in real
Shows he
life,
cares.
people get emotional.
Yeah.
Like, if you want scripted reality, go and watch one of those.
People do have issues with it, Jimmy. You
Yeah,
say,
well,
why do
you
people? People do have
well,
issues.
you know what, if you've
there's
got
parents at home with their kids watching that, and there's a camera.
and-
It's after
and-
nine- it's after
okay.
9:30.
So
8:30.
you don't want to subject your children to and you show that he's done the wrong thing there. Have that conversation with your child. Say that's not how you should be, and it'll be dealt with
Or
appropriately.
go and watch Love Island.
Go and watch. Yeah. You want scripted reality? Go and stick the Kardashians on or the Real Housewives of wherever.
Well, what would
There's
you do?
about 1 million
Anyway,
of those shows. That's really interesting.
What would you say if he
Fake
was
passion.
smiling?
What do you mean? Well, that's fine. What's wrong with that?
So you're happy to see him get beat? You don't want to show any passion that he's getting.
No, I'm happy for him to show passion. I don't have an issue with him showing passion. I'm just saying that's why there's an issue with it, though.
Did the NRL have an issue with
Well,
it? Did
that's
they fine him?
that's the other issue because now Fox has said we've
Our
apologised to
fault.
Ricky. It's our
Yeah.
fault. It puts the NRL in an interesting position because I think the NRL would have come down really hard on Ricky. I'm not sure whether they will now because Fox has taken their share of blame for it. So it's interesting to see where it lands.
I think just leave it and move on.
Now, Jimmy, Luke Thompson, you spoke about him during the game yesterday and wondered about his future. Interesting enough.
I did.
He's off contract at the end of this year. There's at least 2 clubs that are keen on him. The Dragons have been pretty well documented. I believe the Tigers have got an interest as well. There's another unnamed club in the NRL that's got an interest in him. He's going to stay here. He doesn't want to go back to England, as far as I'm aware. And he won't be at Canterbury next year. That won't happen. But there's at least 3 clubs that have expressed an interest in Luke Thompson, and he'll find a home here somewhere.
Yeah, no doubt
next
he will.
season.
He's a quality player. I've seen what he has the capability of doing since he's come here to the NRL. For a number of reasons, suspension and injury, he hasn't had the ability to show exactly what he can do. When he first came over as well, we talk about the Bulldogs being poor this season. Well, they were beyond poor when he first came into this competition and was sort of seen as a little bit of a saviour. It was never going to work out like that. And look, I genuinely hope he stays. I hope he goes to a strong club that have a few more wins than what the Bulldogs have had, and we can show what he can show what he's all about. A top quality person as well, where he prepares to win.
And just on Canterbury, we spoke about him earlier in the situation there. Chammy made a reference, Michael Chammas, in his column today about a text message that's done the rounds. We all got that text message on Saturday. There's a group of about 4 or 5 of us who are in a text message group. There's a random who texts us occasionally, and he's reasonably well informed. And I've talked to Canterbury today about that text message, and that's when I said to you before, Woodsy, there's more change coming because that text message refers to 8 players who are unhappy at the club and want out. I checked with the club today on it. They're saying the figure of 8's wrong, but there's at least 4 who want out of the club at the moment.
Wow.
And they're 4 guys who, the text also refers to Cameron Ciraldo having these training sessions over the summer from 8 a.m. to 5:30 in the afternoon. They will have one day where that's the case. But the view at that club now is if you're not willing to put in the hard work, if you're not willing to make sacrifices, we don't want you here.
So one day a week they've got a problem
One
with
day a
going
week
from
they go
8:30
from
to
9
5.
and
Well, in-
apparently there's
in
a
their
group
break.
of players who aren't happy about it in their break, yeah.
And I'd imagine that, I don't know,
And it's-
knowing high
and
performance,
that is
it's,
fact. There are some players there who are unhappy about it. Don't think it's too long over summer to be at the,
but that'd
at the
be
club.
a prehab session followed by on the field for 2 hours max, and then back in the video, break for lunch, come back
Well,
and maybe do
Those
conditioning.
players
And
won't. From what
gym.
I understand, those players won't be there next year.
Well,
There'll
you
be a
know
group
what?
of players who'll be gone.
I'll go and do it.
Success leaves clues, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, and Cameron Ciraldo's come out of a system, and they know where Penrith have managed to rinse and repeat success. You don't think he knows what their training schedule is like? You
Yes.
don't think they train at a high intensity? Well, guess what? It's probably for a good thing.
Yeah.
Because he's looking for the characters that want to be there and want to work hard.
Yeah.
Success leaves clues. Love that. Never heard that one before.
So what happens if they don't go to those?
Hey, you know what?
Well, they'll find a way, would you, won't they? The blokes have
these 2 clowns have gone off on their own. you know that phrase I used the other week about don't cast pearls to swine.
Yes. Well, you know what it's like, would you? When blokes don't want to be there.
So we're in our own combo here. You two in your own.
Woodsy just looked at James Graham, for those listening, just basically with a look of, shut up, dickhead.
Sometimes Jimmy talks, it goes in one by ear, comes out the other. And then it goes in
Yeah,
Reedies.
yeah,
It goes in Reedies and comes out this way.
and then Peacock's one of those. Goes,
Yeah. Use that. It's very philosophical. Dear. We done?
Yeah.
That was
Big
Reggie's mum.
change, big change coming to Canterbury over the off.
Another big change.
Yep.
That was the Monday Scrum. Gents, have a great week. And
do.
look forward to the weekend of footy to come. It is a beauty.